Hi, this is Jack McCullough. I'm the president of the CFO Leadership Council, and I'm joined with James Vanresusel of Vanresusel Ventures. James, welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Jack.
Great. And I know, James, you grew up in Belgium, and I think it would be interesting for our audience to start off by telling a little about your story of how you went from a high school student in Belgium to being an entrepreneur in San Francisco, California.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a roundabout path, but my mother's English, and so I decided that I wanted to go to college in England and experience the culture there, which was a lot of fun. And then I met a lot of great American students there and really connected with them, and then decided I wanted to come to the States. So a great way to come to the States is through a student visa. So I applied to business school and went to business school in Texas for 2 years at Rice University, which was...
That explains the Texas accent that was coming right through.
So that was a little bit of a culture shock going from the Queen's English to Texas. It was a lot of fun. And then from there, I got a job on Wall Street and lived and worked in New York for about 14 years. And after Wall Street, got a full-time CFO position at a microfinance network in the Pacific. And so I got the entrepreneurial bug there as the CEO and founder was very entrepreneurial. And over 5 years, we were launching and operating microfinance banks on a lot of the islands in the South Pacific, like Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, the Solomon Islands, and setting up holding companies to have a tax-efficient system to do that. But after 5 years of that, I got married to my wife, and she is a pediatric doctor, and she got matched in San Francisco at UCSF. So we got on the plane, moved across the country, and I decided that didn't want to be full-time anymore, and just started working on different companies. And it was actually the largest investor in the microfinance network that recruited me to work on one of her companies. And that then rolled over into multiples.
Wow, that's an interesting story. I didn't know your wife is a pediatric doctor. So does she deliver babies, or does she treat them?
Her specialty is neonatology, and so she's actually present when there are difficult births.
Oh, okay. God, that's got to be stressful. As finance people, we think our jobs are stressful, but when you hear something like that, you realize not so much sometimes, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. She when I'm at cocktail parties, she's always the one that makes me look very intelligent. I married her, and she's also a scientist. So she does research. She has an MD, PhD, and does research into brain stem cells.
Good grief. Yeah. So family arguments, we know who wins those. So anyway, tell us a little about Vanresusel Ventures.
Sure. Great. We are a small corporate finance company that does a lot of CFO work. So a lot of what I used to do. We focus on US-based companies that expand internationally. So all the companies we work with are either based in New York or San Francisco, and they have field operations in Asia, specifically India, Cambodia, and Nepal right now. In Africa as well, in about 6 or 7 countries there, and then also in Europe.
Interesting. That's an interesting niche. I was actually going to ask you how you're different from a lot of other outsourced CFO groups, but that niche right there is different. But besides that, is there any other ways that you're sort of different from other groups?
Yeah. So I have a small team, but my team are all full-time employees. Both the CFOs and the financial analysts, and I think that's a good way to maintain good quality control and also build a very strong culture and have it feel more like a family than bringing in contractors. So I think that's one area that's a little bit different. We also don't do any of the accounting. So if needed, we will outsource that or point people in the right direction. And we also do a lot of hiring as well. So when we go into companies, we really try to help build their internal finance functions from the ground up. And so our goal is really to remove ourselves as quickly as possible. And we've done that for a couple of companies so far. and that really is, we see that as success.
Interesting. You told me before the cameras are on that you have some fascinating clients. Any that you're allowed to talk about and can share their names or their backgrounds?
Sure. Yeah. So I was telling you, we have a mix of both for-profit and non-profit clients. On the for-profit side, a couple of the ones that I really enjoy working on, we have a company that's in a Series C round right now that is in financial media. That is literally is global, is Asia, Latin America, and about to launch in Europe as well. And they have a subscription business. And then another one where I'm a part-time interim CFO at, which is a space company, Planet Labs, that is a lot of fun and has a great future ahead of itself.
Planet Labs.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's one I should probably watch. Space is such a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
So now tell me, when you work with these and some of your other clients, what are some of the problems that you're able to help them solve as they grow?
So it really it depends on company to company, but really it's they've already started in the US typically, and they're about to go overseas, and so it's really the idea of how do we consolidate the overseas operations, how do we get controls in place, processes in place, how do we grow from the step function of growth and scaling to building the team overseas. And I would also say that all except for one company we work with all do audits. So there's a very tight scrutiny on everything.
Okay, great. What's ahead for Vanresusel Ventures in 2020?
So we want to keep the team small, but continue to expand our services. One of the areas that I'm really interested in is productizing a little bit. So really taking the knowledge that we have and thinking about how we can create different small softwares. And I'm working on a couple right now that can really streamline things for clients. Because as you know, there is a higher multiple for products and for services. So I think that's very interesting. So really bringing even more technology into our services. So that is probably one of the main things that I want to focus on next year.
Fascinating. And then my last question, and I think one of my passions right now is preparing the next generation of CFOs and making sure that they had the same successes that I enjoyed when I became a CFO. So you've definitely had what I would consider an unconventional path to becoming a CFO. Any advice that you can give an up-and-coming financial professional who aspires to be a CFO?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I tell people is I usually have a flip chart and I create this drawing and I talk about the waterline. And so above the waterline, you've got the board of directors, you've got the CEO, maybe you've got the exec team. And then below the waterline, you've got the managers and really the staff that make it happen, that really do a lot of the work. And this is what I tell my financial analysts as well here at Vanresusel Ventures is you want to try to spend as much time above the waterline as possible, because it's all about the mindset and being able to, if you can understand what the strategy and how the board members are thinking and how that ties into how the CEO is thinking and the vision for the company, that's how you can really elevate yourself to the exec suite.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, that's great advice. Well, thank you very much. Again, this is James Vanresusel of Vanresusel Ventures. Thanks for your time, and I wish you great success in 2020.
Okay. Thanks, Jack.